So folks will find on their chairs on the front, it'll be sources that go with the sermon, and on the back you'll find a list of thank yous. So Parshat Vayera shows two women, Sarah and Lot's wife, struggling to make sense of things which are beyond imagination. Sarah learns that at age 90, she's going to become a mother. Lot's wife has to turn her back on the destruction of everyone and everything she knows. The Parsha begins with Abraham and Sarah being visited by three angels disguised as travelers. The angels inform Abraham and Sarah that Sarah will soon become pregnant with his child. Sarah had suffered through decades of disappointment in her journey toward motherhood. And perhaps traumatized by these experiences, Sarah retreats into that which is familiar, her pain. She laughs at what these angels say. But if Sarah doesn't make space for the joy of motherhood for which she has so long sought, how will she ever be able to experience it? How will she ever be able to experience true joy if she doesn't wrestle with this reality and learn how to accept the good that is coming into her life? The Parsha then flips Sarah's challenge on its head. Whereas Sarah wondered, can life really be this good? Is this really happening to me? Lot's wife had to ask, can life really be this awful? Is this really happening to me? The same angels who visited Abraham and Sarah then visit their nephew Lot and his household in Sodom. The angels warn Lot and his family to flee and not to look back at the destruction that is behind them. Lot's wife ignores this command. She looks behind her and she's turned into a pillar of salt. Nearly everyone and everything that Lot's wife knew was being destroyed. How could she not look behind? Among those being destroyed may well have been her two married daughters who, unlike her household, were not spared. How could Lot's wife resist looking back if for no other reason than to try to make sense of the terrible destruction behind her, of this terrible loss? It's easy to empathize with Lot's wife. But sometimes we can't understand the how or the why of something, at least not right in the moment. Sometimes we just have to accept that someone or something is dangerous, and we need to get away. We have to protect ourselves. Faced with opposite extremes, Sarah and Lot's wife demonstrate two common emotional responses to trauma. Sarah avoids difficult emotions by minimizing them through her laughter. Lot's wife is so stuck in the moment of her trauma that she forgets to protect herself. But there's a third possible response to this, which is oddly absent from the Parsha, and that's to cry out to God. To cry in the moments of overwhelming struggle is to live out the words of the psalmist. God is the healer of the brokenhearted. God is the one who will bind up their wounds. It is to strive to believe, as our ancestors have believed for millennia, that when we feel weakest, God, who is stronger than we can ever imagine, will share in our burden. We can call out to God in our tears, as my great-grandfather Peter Swartz did when he became an Amish minister. This was not the path in life he chose, but one that quite literally fell on him. When an Amish community needs a new minister, a few suitable candidates are selected, and those candidates draw lots. The idea is that God is the one who is choosing who will lead the flock, who will lead the community. My grandmother used to tell the story of her father, weeping on the buggy ride home after the lot fell on him. Weeping not just at the overwhelming feeling of having been selected to lead, but weeping at the awesome responsibility of leadership, of what it represented. Roughly a century later, I too would weep for very similar reasons. I would weep on the balcony of my Jerusalem apartment after I received the phone call inviting me to study here at JTS. I wept. I wept overwhelmed by joy, by awe. I wept because when I moved to Israel to study to prepare to apply to JTS, I didn't know Hebrew. I knew almost no one. In the months leading up, I bussed tables, I hauled trash. When I got there, I kept doing those things. I also started milking cows. And when my feet and my back would hurt at the end of a long shift, with each step, I would say to myself, Rabbi, Rabbi, to remind myself of what I was doing all of this for. I can remember so vividly that cold Michigan air blowing on me and the pain shooting up my arches, and just saying that to myself. So I cried on that balcony in Jerusalem. I cried because of what I had been through to get to this moment. I wept in awe at the incredible tasks that lay ahead. I knew that, like Sarah, like Lot's wife, I was faced with something much bigger than I could understand. But neither my great-grandfather nor I tried to avoid our feelings. When we were faced with a sudden change in the trajectory of our lives, even though he and I were separated by many years, by many miles, we were united by our faith in God's mercy. We acknowledged that what we faced was more than we could comprehend, and in our tears we asked God to carry us. Doing that is very hard. It's something I still struggle with every day. I struggle to acknowledge my lack of control over the things in my life, over the world around me. Like Lot's wife, I sometimes struggle to make sense of how bad and nasty this world can be. Like Sarah, I sometimes struggle to trust the good things that come into my life, to believe that they're real, that they're safe, that I'll be able to hold on to them. Learning how to balance those two, making sense of the bad, trusting the good, that's the spiritual journey that I've been on for the past 5 years. It's the spiritual journey that I really have just begun. It's the journey that brought me to this institution, and in a few months will take me out of it. It's the journey that has brought all of you who are watching online, and I'm so grateful that those of you who are here in person. It's what's brought all of you into my life. I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank my mentors, my friends, my teachers in Michigan, in New York, in Israel. I want to thank Rabbi Diamond in particular, who guided me as I prepared this Dvar Torah. I want to thank my parents, Carl and Linda Bender, and in particular I want to thank my dad, Carl, for leading Mincha. My father in so many ways is my inspiration. I get my attachment to religion, my love of Judaism from lots of folks, from all sides, but the clergy soul, the thing that made me want to do this, I really get from my dad and from my father's family. And it's a heritage I'm so proud of and I treasure so deeply. I want to as well thank my brother Jacob and his wife Melissa, as well as their son Danny, who are back in Michigan. I want to thank my grandmother Annette Steinborn, my Nana, who believed in me and my dream to become a rabbi from the very beginning, and who helped make that dream possible, who passed down a legacy and a heritage of love of learning. And when you get told no, when things seem hard, you don't give up, you keep going. All of you have helped make me the man I am today and the rabbi that I hope to become. Thank you. So, yeah, thank you. Kaddish Rabbanan on page 13. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. ועל דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחיי חון וביום חון וחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה ברכו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. על ישראל ועל רבנן ועל תלמידיהון ועל כל תלמידיהון ועל כל מאן דעסקין באורייתא די ועטרה הדין ודיק בכל אתר ואתר יהי לכון ולכון שלמה רבה הנה וחיסטה ורחמין וחיין אריכין ומזונה ורווחה ופרקן מן קודם אבוהון דבשמיא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיא וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.